Good morning. We're doing lesson 13.4. 13.4 is a very tricky lesson, and I usually do a lot of this in class. I teach a phrase called King Henry drinks Ucky dark chocolate milk. It helps you remember all the units of the metric system. But since we're doing distance learning, we're going to go simple this year and just talk about the main ones you need to know. So when you watch your video for the lesson, you heard kilometer, hectometer, decameter, meter, decimeter, centimeter, millimeter. We're just going to focus on kilometer, meter, centimeter, and millimeter. So I'm going to pause the video right now, and I'm going to have you write this down in your notebook. So write this down in your notebook right now. I'm going to pause it and then continue with some problems. Okay, so right now I have number 1 from the guided practice. Now, you wrote down 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. Problem number 1 shows 1,000 centimeters equals how many meters? Okay, now, this year we talked about how equations can be flipped around. So we know that 100 centimeters equals how many meters? So we're going to know 1,000 centimeters equals how many meters? So to do the math, you're going to think, how many times do I need to have to add 100 to make 1,000? So if you do 100 times what equals 1,000, you're going to think for a minute and be like, hey, 100 times 10 equals 1,000, so that's going to be 10 meters. Okay, I'm going to pause here for a minute and write down number 2. Okay, so this is number 2 of guided practice. On the notes that you wrote down on the first page, you're going to know that 1 meter equals 1,000 millimeters. Now, number 2 asks you, if you had 58 meters, how many millimeters is that going to be? Now, a meter's like, it's the metric version of a yard. It's just a little bit longer. So we're going to think 58 meters equals how many millimeters? So to do this, we'll do, if we know that 1 is 1,000, you would do 58 times 1,000, and that's going to give you your answer. So if you do 58 times 1 is 58, then add on 1, 2, 3 zeros, it's going to be 58,000 millimeters. Okay, I'm going to pause and write down another problem. Okay, so now we're comparing units. Now that chart you wrote on earlier, where I paused and said write it down in your notebook, you wrote down that 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters. Now we're comparing meters to kilometers. We either have to change these both to meters or change them both to kilometers. So we know that 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters. So I'm going to change them both to kilometers. So if I know that there's 9,000 meters, I know that 1,000 meters equals 1 kilometer. So I can divide that by 1,000. Cross it, cross it, cross it, cross it, cross it, cross it. Because 9,000 divided by 1,000 is going to equal a total of 9. So I can erase that. And I know that my 9,000 meters equals 9 kilometers, because 1 kilometer equals 9,000 meters. This is 1 dot because it's smaller. The larger number gets 2. Connect them, and I'm going to say 9 kilometers is less than 20 kilometers. Okay, this was not on the chart that I had you write down, but 1,000 millimeters equals 1 kilometer. You're going to see these numbers with millions. Now, millimeters are really, really tiny. So if you had 120 million millimeters and you know that a million of them equal 1 kilometer, you're going to divide this by a million, and then you do your cross off. So you're left with 120 divided by 1. 120 million millimeters equals 120 kilometers. So big numbers. If you are good with the simple ones, with the smaller numbers, you'll know exactly what you need to know. Some of these get a little bit complicated. When I teach this in class, I do a lot of talking, but I'm unable to do that with distance learning. Good luck.